Hi, everyone. I hope that you can hear me. Yes, my name is Raquel Namuche, and I am an organizer with the Ridgewood Tenants Union, which is a group that was formed in 2014 to combat the gentrification that we've been hit with for many, many years now. What we've been seeing is that in the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of the people that were contacting us had lost their jobs, or definitely had like a lot of hours cut, and whatever income they had, whatever streams of money that they had, were going to paying the rent, right? Either all of the rent or a portion of the rent. People were borrowing money, people were getting loans. That's a lot of what we heard of. And for like the first 4 to 5 months, it seemed like what I heard the most was that landlords were being patient, right? For the most part, they were like, okay, you'll pay me back later or just pay me in installments. It seems now that landlords are getting really antsy. And we're at the point where most of our calls are from fearful tenants, right? People that are really stressed out. I keep hearing over and over again that people's mental health is really suffering, right? People are scared shitless that they're going to be evicted, and people are already being illegally evicted, right? Landlords are taking matters into their own hand. They're trying to circumvent the law. They're trying to break the law by kicking people out because now they know, right? There's a newly enacted eviction moratorium. Tenants have some protections from being evicted. And so, when we were once getting calls saying, hey, I need support with food, right? Because all my money is going towards rent. I now need help with rent, right? And so there are resources out there that existed even before the pandemic, right? If you were falling behind on rent and you were being brought to housing court, you could access the local public assistance offices, right? And they could help you pay your rent arrears. That these systems, right, these resources still exist in New York City. And it's somehow made more accessible, right? Applying for public assistance and rental assistance has been made a bit more accessible. Now you can do it all online. You can do it through your phone. There's an app where you can apply for public assistance. You don't necessarily have to go to the local public assistance office, right, to complete the whole process. But yet there's still a huge chunk of New Yorkers who are unable to access the current resources that exist, right? And that's a tragedy, right? Because we need to be doing more for undocumented folks. We need to be doing more for people that work in the gig economy, people that just work in all kinds of underground economies, right? That maybe don't have pay stubs, right? Don't have a way to certify their income through their employment or their employer. The state last year also created a fund, right? They allocated $100 million through the COVID rent relief program. Unfortunately, the program was a huge failure. So much that over $60 million was left in a pot of money for rent, right? And that just showed you that there were huge hurdles for people accessing the money, right? They've revamped the program. People can now apply. The application deadline, I think, is end of February. So people should definitely be applying. There's a website where you can apply through the state public assistance portal. But we need more, like Esteban said, right? We need some type of universal rent relief for tenants, because before the pandemic, right, there were over 92,000 homeless New Yorkers. And now there will be more, right? Because we're going to be hit with a tidal wave of evictions come May. And if in May we don't get any kind of universal relief for tenants, we're going to start seeing our homeless population increase. And we don't want that. And so we need to find different sources of revenue, right? So that people can get the support that they need to pay their rent. A study recently came out that said there's like over $1 billion, right, of rent that's owed by New Yorkers. And that is a lot of money, right? We need to wipe it all out. And the only way we're going to do that is if we find like really creative ways to help tenants through these like really, really challenging times. And we need like protections that are universal for everyone, right? The folks that we are trying to build up here in through the work that we're doing here in Ridgewood, Middle Village, Glendale, and Maspeth are folks that are undocumented, right, are immigrant families that aren't able to access, the resources that I've been talking about. And so we need support for all these folks, right, for all of our neighbors, so that no one gets evicted come May 1st. Basically, everything we do is mission driven, right? Even the mutual aid projects that we started in March. So in March, we started doing food drop off, like grocery drop offs, and then we grew that to like food distributions. We now have a community fridge, right? We have a whole community fridge project. We have a homeless outreach project. We now have an eviction defense project too. And all those projects are always really busy. And the only way we're able to do all that work is because we have like fucking badass members, right? Who are totally fucking dedicated and keep the projects running. Without them, like none of this would be happening, right? And so with all the projects that we have, it all goes towards our mission of building up tenant power, right? The community fridge is there because we want to salvage food, but also because when our neighborhoods get gentrified, the cost of food goes up, right? We have a homeless outreach project because we know that when developers build housing that's not affordable, right, for tenants, that homelessness increases, right? Tenants get displaced and they go to the shelter system, right? And so all of the projects that we have, all the mutual aid projects that we have are mission driven to our ultimate mission of growing tenant power and fighting back against displacement. It certainly helped that we've been able to fundraise, right? We've never raised money for our tenant organizing. Our group is 100% independent, which is why we can get away with a lot of what we do, right? Like saying fuck Bob Holden, right? Fuck our local council member, and cancel Kathy Nolan. These are all of our local electeds. Like in Ridgewood, we've just been really unlucky with representation. And so we counteract that, right, by organizing. No one in this neighborhood has ever organized politically for tenants, right? It's very much a community that's overpowered by white homeowners, right? And so we're doing that work. And so everything we do goes back to the ultimate mission of growing our power as tenants. And that grows political power, right? So that we change the dynamics in these neighborhoods, which, like I said, are run by people that just would rather us not here.